This is the Stop Time Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Hopkins, and I'm here to engage you in thought-provoking, motivational conversations around practicing the art of living in the moment. I'm a certified life coach, and I'm excited to dig deep and offer insights into embracing who we are and where we are at. So my next guest is Congolese Puerto Rican artist from Delaware. She co-stars in the Apple TV series Dear Edward alongside Connie, Britton, and Taylor Schilling, and recently starred as Francine in the Kander Ebb Broadway musical New York, New York. Previously, she originated the role of Cartherine Parr in the North American tour and Broadway debut of Six. And when she isn't playing dress up, she's in Brooklyn with her husband writing love songs to her dog. I am so looking forward to getting to know and to introducing you all to Anna Uzele. Welcome, Anna.
Hello.
Hi, how are you? It's so nice to meet you.
So good to meet you. Thank you for having me. So generous
Oh,
of you.
it's my pleasure. I'm so glad that you were able to do it. So where are you calling in from today, just to give us a context?
I'm in Brooklyn. I'm at home with my dog on the floor next to me.
Nice. Have you been home for a while, or what's kind of going on with your vibe?
I have. I'm finding myself right now while we're in a literal wintertime, if you're in New York City, I feel like I'm in an energetic wintertime sort of. Was just in a couple big shows and then they fell apart and are no longer. And that's just how this industry works. And so I've sort of been chilling out and taking things slow and not worrying about producing anything at the moment, which has been really lovely. But yeah, I've been home quite a bit.
I love that you refer to your profession as playing dress up. I think that's lovely. It's lovely, right?
It's something that another actor said to me one time. We were in the midst of tech, and everyone was really stressed out and really tired. And I I went up to one of them and I said, "How are you doing?" He goes, "You know what? I can't complain. I'm playing dress up, and I'm getting paid to do it." And I was like, "You know what? You're right. Thank you for that."
Yeah, absolutely. Well, do you remember, like, when was the earliest inkling that you liked to do this? That did you play dress up as a little kid?
I did. My mom had this giant dress up box, and I
Mm.
was also homeschooled. And so there was a lot of pretending and make believe and just following our curiosities at home. And art of all kinds was a part of the household. My father is a musician, and my mother can paint or draw anything and make it look like a photograph. So there was always artists surrounding me. No one was a performer, really. No one was acting of any kind, but they all appreciated that art form. And so you put on silly little plays with your friends on the dining room table and made up tall tales and reenacted them. So there's always that going on, of course.
That's amazing. Do you have siblings, or are you an only child?
Yeah, I'm the oldest of three, and I have a younger brother or younger sister.
Oh, cool. And did you find that when you were
Yeah.
growing up that, as the first, sometimes it's the first for the parents too, right? So was there
Yeah,
kind of an inherent kind of like ease that came along after you? Like, how did that dynamic work?
I think so. To sort of color this, not only was I homeschooled and was it not only an artistic environment, but my family was evangelical Christians and they still are. And so it was also very religious at the same
Mm.
time. And so I think I got the strictest version of my parents because suddenly they have this kid and they don't want to mess her up and they have this idea of who they would like her to be in the world, to be a good person. And so parents always go into parenthood with like grand plans on how they're going to do things. And so I really was the guinea pig in so many ways. And then I think the way it played out was that I just grew up really fast. I had younger siblings. My mom went through, I think now in hindsight, I believe it was really intense postpartum depression. And so there were times in which she wasn't able to mother in the way that she wanted to. And so I have these like really, really fun memories of like just being curious and learning about bugs and learning about Greek mythology and all of this stuff. And then there's like the rigidity of the religion, and then there's like, okay, now Anna's the mom now, and she needs to like make breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the family and things like that. So there's a lot of different colors there.
Yeah. So did you homeschool all the way through, like through high school as well?
No, I did this really crazy thing where I was homeschooled all the way up until eighth grade. Only had friends that were from church. Only listened to Christian music. Only watched like approved things on the TV.
Hmm.
And then suddenly I went to a performing arts high school, and it was like night and day. And I met gay people for the first time. And I heard the F bomb for the first time in real life. And it blew my mind. And I didn't know what to do. And so it was this wild transition. And it was a really big deal for my family and my community to let me do that. You know, I wanted to sing and dance. And they were like, okay, we're going to let you go to a secular school. And there was this verse that they would speak over me, and I can't remember what it was exactly, but they were like, we need you to be as wise as a snake and as innocent as a dove. And that's what they would say over me before I went into this environment, because they didn't want it to ruin me, and they didn't want it to take away my faith in any capacity. But all I did was just fall in love with people. I think I was exposed to human beings that finally thought differently than me, and I was confronted with that. And then I also realized that I loved them at the same time. And so then there was this cognitive dissonance that began to arise. It was really baby and small at that point in time. So it was just like, wow, I love these people, and I thought you were going to burn in hell, and there's something in me that says I don't like that. But that was all. That was all that happened in high school. And then, of course, later things start to unravel.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. I think it's really important for people to hear this because when we're brought up by our parents who are always well-meaning, no matter what. I mean, no matter how
Of
bad we think,
course.
right, or good or bad or whatever. As humans, I really believe this. My belief system is that we do the very best we can.
We all do. Even if our best is shit, it's our best.
Exactly. Right? And our best also doesn't always look the same. You know, I'm always saying to my
No.
clients, it does not always look the same. Like that's where we get, again, you mentioned the cognitive dissonance. Like we can get really messed up in our heads when
Yeah.
when we can't be our best because we're holding our best as what we did yesterday, last night, last show, right?
Yeah. 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 Totally. Preach. And I think that's why I like partly fell in love with theater. Yeah, it was a lovely art form and I appreciated it, but I liked a lot of things. I, played sports and did gymnastics. There was a lot of things that I thought were fun. Theater just being one of them. But it was specifically the people with which I got to connect with in theater. And part of me wonders, like, do I even really like musical theater, or am I just good at it? And did I make it a point to stay around those people? Like, what was it that made me pursue it? And I think the people had a bit more to do with it than the art form.
Yeah. But that's a great kind of exploration, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about your why, which is so key. And yes, you are extraordinarily gifted. And I was going to actually ask you about that. Is I'm curious to know if it's okay if I ask and you can let me know, but
Yeah.
I'm curious to know like if your family, what helped them release you into, this heathen world or this heathen profession was that
Yeah.
they had to acknowledge that you were given a gift from God, if you want.
Yes, yes. And I think they were fully aware of it from the time I was a little kid, because I would be getting up on tables and like performing little made up songs or reenacting entire scenes from Fiddler on the Roof or The Sound of Music or My Fair Lady or whatever G-rated musical I was allowed to watch at that time. I think they knew from a very early age that if they let me, I could go do extraordinary things at a really young age, but they also knew that they wanted to preserve my childhood. And so while I was doing a lot, I also have a lot of memories of them saying no. There were a lot of times where I would be like, I really want to do this thing. And for no reason at all, the answer would just be no. And I would just have to sit with that. Or I think they were a bit afraid of what it could do to a child. And I
Mm.
think they knew that at some point I was going to grow into an adult and I was going to make my own choices anyway. And if that's what I wanted to do, wonderful. but they were at least going to slow it down while I was
Mm.
younger, in the hopes of me just having a childhood.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, which I appreciate now, actually.
Mm.
It was annoying at the time, but now I'm sort of like, yeah, I think there would have been more of a stunting that occurred, and it's really important for kids to be kids.
Yeah. I love that you just had an insight. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember being really mad about it. I was just like, ah, but I'm
mhm.
good at this and I love it. And there was a moment where my dad sat me down and I said something about Broadway and how it sounded fun. And I don't necessarily know what he meant, but the way I took it was you have to choose one or the other. And he said, Anna, it's Broadway or the narrow way. As if either you go on Broadway or you lead this life that God wants you to lead. And so it sort of implanted in me like God might not want Broadway for you
Mm.
because it's grand and it's flashy and things like that,
Mm.
which I don't believe to be true. And I think there are plenty of Christians on Broadway that also love God, and that also works out fine for them. But I received that message pretty loud and clear as a kid, that there was something about Broadway that would take me away from
Mm.
God.
It sounds like, but I don't know. I'd love it if you clarified. It sounds like you kind of, there was a point at which in the beginning at least, that you just accepted it, right? You accepted that that was a decision. You didn't really question much. Is that right? Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, I think obedience was one of the highest virtues in the
Mm.
community that I was raised in.
Mm.
And I wanted to be the most virtuous person ever. I was good at everything. I was good at sports, I was good at singing, I was good at dancing, and I was really good at being a Christian daughter.
Mm.
And that was really, really important to me. And so while it was frustrating and difficult at times, obedience was looked at as this really, really virtuous quality, which now I look back and I'm like, why is obedience looked up to? Like, what are they trying to create? Little robots who can't think for themselves? But at that point in time, I felt really good that even though I was sad about their decisions, God was happy because Anna obeyed her parents. And so having this like third figure that you're raised with, this belief in a God, um, pleasing God was everything. Yeah, I couldn't think
Mm.
of anything higher than that. And the only way to know if God was happy with you is if your parents told you so. And so you just inherently trust them in all ways, as children do. So yeah, there was frustration there for sure, but I was more interested in pleasing God.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Or and I don't want to, again, I don't want to project, but was it a trusting God or pleasing God?
Uh, I would say a pleasing God.
Yeah.
I think trust comes in a little bit later, but
Mhm.
just to get the thumbs up from Big Daddy in the sky was everything.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And actually that could be a real big comfort. I mean, I was not raised that way, but I can see from where I'm sitting how that in some ways could be a comfort, right?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. And I also think that like I was also this little like, I don't know, golden child in a way. I just did everything right, and so I sort of became addicted to praise and approval, and I
Mm.
I think I kind of became a bit of a junkie for it, and I believe I lost myself along the way, and in realizing that the entire identity I had built for myself was one in which was supposed to make mom and dad and God proud, and not really knowing if I was even proud.
Mm.
But in the beginning, you're like, so long as I can please him, there's nothing more you can ask for.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, everything's answered, right? If you did it,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
if
It's
then.
there's so much security in like just telling yourself that you know everything. It just feels so good. There were no questions, there was
Yeah.
no nebulous gray area. It was just black and white and clear and simple. And it really helped you sleep at night.
Yeah. Where did you begin to break away from that?
It was all very careful, and it was all very gradual. Not only was it your family, but it was also the church community. I was so active in the church, and that's where I grew up singing. And my father was also a pastor, and so I was a pastor's daughter, and so there was just always eyes on me and always eyes on my family. And my father would even say to me, there are things that we can't do that other families and other little girls can do because we have to remain above reproach. And so the I believe the awakening, it happened so gradually because I still really cared what everybody thought about me. And so I really, really needed to maintain this shiny exterior, and I just became a really, really secretive person. My rebellion was so, so secretive. I never really dated ever in high school. Not even never really. I did not date in high school because, God forbid, I am perceived as too flirtatious or anything like that. I wanted to be this like chaste Christian woman. And so if I did have a relationship, my parents never found out about it and it was completely in secret. And then if I went through a breakup, they would never find out about it and it was completely in secret. And so that I just felt like I began to lead a second life almost. And the person I showed up as in secular settings was a completely different, freer human being than the one that showed up to church on Sunday morning or came to the breakfast table. So it began in high school, and then I did it in college. I went to study musical theater, and so I got to be around all of these wonderful people for 4 more years.
Mm,
And I was in Texas, and so I wasn't constantly having to go back to the church that was reminding me who I needed to be.
mm.
It was definitely a really, really low point. It was leaving point A and not knowing if point B existed, but knowing that point A was not right anymore and choosing to sort of be confused and just in the nebulous. And for a while, I was just like, I don't even know if there's a God. I don't know if I believe in a God. All I know is that love is real. And for a while, that was what I went with. It's just like the
Mm.
only thing true is love. And it was deeply, deeply uncomfortable. It all come back to universal truths about us wanting to know why we're here and where we belong. And that's
Exactly.
universal.
This morning I watched a clip of you singing And the World Goes Round on Stephen Colbert. And I
Oh,
was
lovely.
so struck by your incredible calm and your incredible power. Now that we've been talking, it kind of makes sense to me actually, but it does really stand out. You're incredibly deep, calm, and powerful. Your essence, I was
Mm,
it's almost like effortless, first of all, the way you do it, but to me, it's coming from another place, and it really speaks to
mm.
who you are. Can you speak? Can you respond to that? I don't know. Maybe that's a lot.
I love that you used the word calm because that was a goal of mine when I entered the New York journey. I think with every project we do, we learn a little bit better how to take care of ourselves for the next one. And I left Sixth the Musical in a really, really depleted state. I left like, next time I do the Broadway thing, I'm gonna do it different. And I have to figure out how I'm gonna do it different because the way I feel right now is so shitty and I don't want to feel that way anymore. And and I'm not having fun. I'm not having fun singing and dancing. And that's a big red flag because like we're on a floating rock and we're playing pretend like this should be fun. And one of the things that I did in six is that I said yes to everything and I didn't say no to a single thing. And it was such a great opportunity. And so many people would have loved to be in my shoes and would kill to be where I am right now. So I said, just say yes to everything. And so I did. And I burned myself out really, really hard. And I ruined my voice in a lot of ways too. I went to the ENT and they were like, we have some problems here. And so when New York started, I was like, I need to be bigger than this experience. This experience cannot be bigger than me. It cannot overpower me. It cannot run me ragged. It does not have permission. And I made a promise to my body that I was going to take care of it because my body had sort of stopped trusting me because Anna just kept saying yes to everything. And so my body and my voice were like, wait, hold on. Did you check in with me to see if I was able? And so something I really desired was that for opening night and for first preview, that I would be calm, because I knew if I wasn't calm, I wouldn't be able to be vulnerable. I wouldn't be able to like be honest in the moment or do any of those things. And I was like, how do I make sure that when people are screaming at me and there's folks in tuxedos expecting me to impress them, how do I make sure that I don't freak out, you know? Because when your body's in fight or flight, you're a completely different species at that point in time. Like you can't sing, you can't breathe, you're sweating everywhere. And so I was like, okay, I need to regulate my nervous system. This is a really long-winded way of answering your question, but I started cold plunging every week because I wanted to teach my body how to maintain a homeostasis in the face of something that would otherwise cause it to go into fight or flight. And I was like, maybe I can practice like giving it little doses of not feeling safe and then telling it it's safe anyway. So I started doing that every single week leading up to opening. And it was really wonderful because I got to enjoy everything. Like every special moment, like nothing was overwhelming. Everything was just fun and nothing was too big for me to handle. And I felt like I could walk into every moment just peacefully and calmly delivering whatever it was that was asked of me. So I love that you received that because that was something that was important to me.
And you have that quality. You have that quality on screen too. I know that I think I read somewhere, was that your first TV film thing that you did for Dear Edward?
It was my first series regular. I had done like little episodic
Okay.
things
Yeah.
sprinkled throughout in the past, but yeah, that was my first like big girl TV job.
Yeah. And what do you feel about it? Do you feel like, do you have a sense of where you like to put your energy or?
I found afterwards that I need both. I
Mm,
left the Dear Edward experience being like, wow, I was paid so well and I was treated so well, but wow, I'm bored.
mm,
Only because it's such a slow process shooting. You're sitting in a trailer and then you're shooting these like tiny, tiny little snippets and you're not present with your audience. I think there's nothing like being with the people that are receiving your performance,
yeah.
and getting to calibrate your energy to the energy of the room is so special. You feel like an alchemist in the moment. You're
Mm,
like, okay, every single eye is on me in the middle of the stage, and I am going to be a mirror and I'm going to shoot it back out to you. And that's so fun and special to have 1,000 people's energies with you and to get to hold that. There's nothing quite like that. But then it's really, really easy to get burned out on Broadway. It's kind of like the trenches. You're doing 8 shows a week, you're running on fumes, you're sputtering half the time. Uh, so I think from Dear Edward, I learned that I work really well in cycles, and it would be wonderful to have a lifestyle where I could go back and forth.
yeah. I asked you, on the form before we met, I asked you, what if anything, do you think stands between you and who you want to be? And you said the desire for approval, the pressure to hustle. Now it's a little bit about what we were speaking about, but tell me a
Mm-hmm.
little more. Yeah.
I feel the first one, the desire for approval, is one that I've really shed in a lot of ways. It's sort of like an old demon, which feels good to say. It's an old one, but I've more recently been noticing how the location in which we are has an energy to it. New York City has a very specific energy. People come here for a reason. They come here to partner with the energy of the city and make their dreams come true. And that's why there's like magic in the air here. Like
Mm.
you can turn left and fall in love, or you can turn right and fall in a pothole. You know what I mean? Like it's a
Yep.
very moment by moment thing that people are attracted to, and that's why they flock here. And I think, we started this conversation by me saying, yeah, I'm in a winter time right now. Because I'm in that state, I'm finding the energy of the city more annoying than it is exciting, simply because that's not the place I feel I'm in. And when I am in the place of, okay, let's go make something, it feels so good and so right. And you can soar with it. But I think when Dear Edward got canceled and then New York, New York closed, there was this feeling of like I worked really, really hard to fill up my schedule with these amazing opportunities. Like, I don't have any energy left in the tank to go book another TV show or go try to find another Broadway show. Like, I just put all of my juice into these like two things that I really loved and care about. And so I guess I'm going to need to sit down for a little bit and try to re-nourish myself and just sit with myself for a bit. And there has been a lot of guilt in that. There's been a lot of guilt that is coming up for me, even simply in like taking naps. And like having like old child memories come up of like going to like take a nap, but then like not fully falling asleep because I wanted to like listen for a parent's footsteps on the step. Because if they caught me sleeping, like I might get in trouble for like not finishing a chore or something like that. And so there's all of these ways in which I've actually hindered myself from fully resting. And so the pressure to hustle, I could blame the city, but it's at the end of the day, like we're responsible for ourselves. And so, yeah, I've been working to release any pressure I place on myself to not rest and to not re-nourish because I have to. And it's been really lovely.
You get to.
I get to. Yeah, I get to. And I've experienced what it's like to not do that. It's not right. It's not right. And so it's been lovely to be like, yeah, I'm gonna take a nap right now, and then I'm gonna do this because I get to and I want to.
Yeah, well, and it is amazing with the I get to thing because it's so conscious, right? And you're in it. Whereas with that I have to thing, I mean, I understand what you mean when you say that, but your brain doesn't. See, your brain is, I always say it's like almost like Chat GPT, right? It has
Mm,
only the data in there. It's going to create stories from the data in there. So when
yeah.
you say I have to, it goes, I have to. Oh my God. That's why those other things come up.
Mm,
You hear, oh, I have to. When did that show up in her life? Oh, when her parents were right. That's why your brain is creating these
yeah.
stories. That's why you can't nap. But when you're
Right.
when you're in, I get to, right? I get to do this, or I choose to do this, right?
Mm,
Because you're doing it anyways. That's the key is like, it's so funny that we assign stuff to what we're doing when we're actually doing it. I mean, it's one thing to
mm,
have goals and to think about what we want to do and all that's all wonderful, but when we're actually in the moment, that's where all this storytelling goes on in our head that
yeah.
prevents us from really taking in that moment, living in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And also too, with this industry, you experience a lot of people who are afraid of being forgotten. And so that makes you think, well, maybe I should be afraid of being forgotten too. Maybe if I'm not working constantly, people will forget my name. And then what if I don't have a career anymore? And then you can go on this quite damaging fear spiral,
Yeah.
even though you just finished working a job. My goodness, honey, you're fine. And so I think there's also pressure simply from the industry because it's this space where we're super artistic and we're vulnerable and we're sharing ourselves, but also we're competitive at the same time. But
Yeah.
also, you're in a line of girls that look just like you and you're all gunning for the same role, but don't get competitive about it. And so, this is weird, like mind bending thing where you're in competition, but you're not supposed to act like you're in competition, but it can't help but affect you. And
Yeah.
it's going to affect you. And so it's been really lovely to just be like, I'm not going to be on Instagram anymore. And it's okay if people forget about me for a little bit because that's not what I'm living for. Like, I don't place value in being remembered by strangers.
Yeah, there you go.
That, like, it's okay. I place value in the people that are close to me that I love.
Yeah.
That's where the value lies.
Yeah. Amen. Hey, so what would you do if you couldn't do what you do? Like if for some reason, I don't know, it didn't exist, or yeah, what would you do?
I would go be a treehouse architect
Mm,
and I would design beautiful, beautiful tree houses, like tree mansions, not even tree houses that like span across an entire forest with like big, intricate walkways. I would love to live in the woods one day. I grew up climbing trees and like running
Mm.
around in the woods. So there's always something about nature that's calling to me, which I find funny that I live in a city. But one day I'm going to live in nature. I know it. Um, I love to make things beautiful. That is
Mm.
like something that makes me really happy is like transforming a space, whether that's like interior designing or um, even like transforming my own body and like feeding myself with really nutritious foods so that I feel stronger the next day. There's something about that that makes me something about transformation that feels so
Mm.
exciting to me. Um, so yeah, I would probably be doing something in that space. I'm also very passionate. I don't know why. I've always been very passionate and obsessed with childbirth. I think it is one of the most like fascinating, beautiful things. And death. Something about the bookends of life are so alluring to me. And I think both of them are not talked about and forgotten. And so I'd probably work in one of those fields, whether I was like embalming bodies or working with people who had loved ones pass or being a doula or something like that.
Mm.
Something where I was helping people transition in or out.
Mm. That's neat.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the rhythm of your days like these days? Like, what's a day? So you're living in Brooklyn,
Yeah.
you're quote unquote between projects or whatever. Like, what's the rhythm of your day these days? Like, what's, yeah, it,
Yeah, it's been more social as of late. Usually when I'm in projects, I really struggle to keep up relationships with people and I
mm,
send out a bunch of texts that are like, "Hi, I'm really overworked and exhausted. I can't meet for lunch or I'm not able to do this right now." And so it's been really lovely to just reconnect with friends.
mm,
I feel like I've been a social butterfly for the past couple of months. Um, it's been really nourishing to reinvest in good friendships. I also experienced a really intense injury right after New York
mm,
closed. And that's been a huge challenge for me and really new for me. I've never been injured before. I was always a really strong kid and I always loved picking heavy things up and putting them back down again. Like that's always been really fun for me. And I love to deadlift and squat and all of these things. And so then for the first time, my body just wasn't doing what
mm,
I wanted it to do. And it was in a lot of pain and I had to reckon with a lot of physical weakness. And so I've been doing a lot of healing over the past couple of months. My days are okay, we're going to do a self tape for this TV show and then we're going to go to physical therapy
yeah.
and then maybe we're gonna sit in an Epsom salt bath and like try to get our legs to work again. It's been this mixture of reconnecting with people and then like crying on the floor because like my quad won't fire in the way I want it
Yeah,
to, you know? So it's been like really nourishing and also like sad at the same time, but I'm
sure.
starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Hey, what's the hardest thing you've ever done?
My wedding.
Mm,
It was the most beautiful day of my entire life. And it was the bravest thing I'd ever done. And my husband and I, we got engaged and then we had to decide how we were going to do this thing called ceremony, one in which we had only seen in a very, very Christian sense. And so we called up a friend. We met with this friend once a week for months leading up to it. He asked us our values. We meditated together. And we basically crafted this ceremony in which our Christian relatives and friends and family were going to come watch. And it was the scariest thing I'd ever done in my life because, like I said before, it's really, really easy for me to be secretive. Like, if something's uncomfortable for me to share with you about myself, I just won't. That's just simpler. That's just easier. And this was a day that we were inviting people to come witness us in our truth. And that was so scary. And some of the choices we made around that day were going to be a bit abrasive to people. We made the choice, first of all, to walk down the aisle together. I did not feel it was true for me to be given away. Um, and so I had to sit down with my parents, I had previously asked them to walk me down the aisle, and I had to tell them, "I love you so much, and I'm so grateful for everything you've done for me." But my husband and I are actually going to walk down the aisle together, hand in hand, and we're going to do this a little bit differently. And here's how I envision you being a part of the ceremony. And we found other ways for them to be participants in it that felt right for us. It was terrifying because I had created this human being that I was so proud of. I had matured in ways that I was so proud of and evolved in so many ways. And now I was gonna put it on display in front of friends and family that maybe hadn't seen into my heart in a really, really long time. And it was wild. We stepped out together, walked down the aisle, and it almost felt like, and I'm not trying to say that I understand this experience, but it almost felt like coming out to just be like, "Hi, this is who we are. This is how we do ceremony, and we invite you to participate in that. And thank you for coming." And then to be received and like accepted, and to have it be like have, like the response be love was absolutely life changing. And I felt like we were able to step into marriage being like, oh, we can literally do anything together. Like, I am the bravest version of myself when you're next to me. Like, let's go. Like, let's jump off cliffs. Let's tear shit down. Like, let's go. So yeah, that was the hardest thing, and it ended up being the biggest blessing.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That's incredible.
Mhm.
And congratulations. That is extraordinarily brave. And you didn't need to do that. You didn't have to do that, right?
Oh, but I wanted to.
Yeah. Well, clearly. And look what
I
happened, right?
wanted to. I wanted
Ah.
to.
What's the easiest thing you've ever done or easiest decision you've ever made?
Mm. To make things. Anytime there's an invitation to create or to sing, it's just it's so simple because it genuinely flows out of me. Like there's this river inside of me that I can pull from. And so anytime I get to sing, anytime I get to share my creativity with people, like that is so easy. Getting the invitation to join New York, New York, that was the easiest yes I've ever said in my entire life. Like, yes, absolutely. Yes, do I want to be a Black girl in a period show singing Kander and Ebb music that fits in my voice so easily as if it was written for me, even though it's not? Yes, 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 yes. That was so easy.
Mm. Did the opportunity come easily?
It took several rounds of auditions, but I loved going to every single
Mm.
round. It didn't feel hard to do. I was actually in six at the time, and I was auditioning for a workshop of New York, New York. It wasn't even a Broadway show at the time. And I sent in a self tape, and then I went in and sang New York, New York in front of John Kander, which was crazy. And all of it felt so simple. I remember feeling free to improv, which usually if you're nervous, it's hard to improv. And I remember in the scene work we were doing, adding lines in, and it the response in the room being really positive. And then as we got further along in the callback process, they added some of the words that I had improv into the script as they were modifying the script. And so it was this wonderful collaborative journey. And so by the
Mm.
time we got to Broadway, I was like, yeah, I feel like a partner with you guys in making this show. So yeah, it was easy because I wanted all of
Yeah, that's awesome.
it.
How do you want to be remembered?
I don't know if I need to be remembered. I don't if I am remembered, that's wonderful. But I don't know why my first instinct in hearing you say that is like, well, why do I need to be remembered? um I want to live a life in which when people are around me and are near me, they simply get to fall deeper in love with themselves. I want to live a life in which people blossom, kind of like when a flower sees the sun, it can open up. I just want to give sun to everyone. And if you remember that I'm the one that gave that to you, that's fine. But also the fact that it affected you at all is all that matters. This is the first time I'm thinking through this question.
Not bad.
Yeah, I just want to like inject the world with more love. I think that we're all starving for it. And if you remember that it came from me, sure, why not? But also the love will be there, whether I'm there or not.
Yeah. That's really beautiful.
I
Go.
love the work you do. I love the work you do. And one thing I wanted to say that as I listened to some of your podcasts before coming on here, it was really cool because I felt like you were giving the audience an opportunity to watch you do the work that you do in a
Mm.
way, even though I know that this is a completely different setting than your one-on-one coaching sessions, but still we're able to like get a peek into how you speak into people's lives.
Yep.
And that was like so attractive to me. And there was something about it that I was like, oh, I wonder, I want to do something like that one day. And I think that sort of speaks to my answer to your question of like, I would love to for people to help people realize who they are. There's
Yeah.
something about that that's so beautiful because you're doing that. Like that's literally the work you're doing. Yeah. So I love that. And thank you for sharing that.
Let me ask you just a few more things. You got a few more minutes?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. What would you say is your Achilles heel?
Disappointing people. Uh, as in, like, if there is a chance that I could disappoint someone, it can control me. It could control the actions I take. And I've been working on it, but man, sometimes it comes in. I'm like, oh, it'd be so good to just make them smile. Wouldn't that feel better just to make them happy? That would feel so
Yeah.
nice.
Oh my
Just
God.
betray yourself, make them smile.
Wow. Yeah, that's huge. But it's attached. We
It's
don't
so
think we
attached.
don't think it's attached, right? Because usually when you're giving, people like it until they don't. And then you get triggered and then you go, oh, then you know it's attached.
Yeah, because you're doing it for the expectation that they're going to dish out some sort of compliment or some sort of gratitude that's going to make you feel good.
Yep.
And then you just realize that like you've probably never done a selfless action in your entire life because it was all to just make you feel like a great person.
What's one sort of big goal that you have that you've thought about, maybe toyed with?
Yeah. I want to play a superhero
Ooh.
and it doesn't necessarily have to be have magical powers, but to be some sort of warrior, some sort of situation where you fly me to like I don't know New Zealand, and I'm like training for 6 months to prepare for this role, and I get to like throw spears, and I get to learn fight choreography and things like that. That is like huge for me to get to like use my body in that sort of way for a role, not just my face.
Oh, 100%. And that's going to happen. I feel that.
Yeah, me too. I would love to play, there's Africa has such a deep, deep, rich history pre-colonialization, and there's
Yeah.
so many ancient African queens that have sort of been forgotten about. There was a queen of Ethiopia that had this magnificent army, which is why Ethiopia was never colonized. To this day, it is like the one African country that wasn't depleted of resources. And
Oh,
so there's all
wow.
these like African queens that I would love. My father's Congolese, and I spent my early years going to Africa several times to visit family and haven't been back in years, but I would love to tell some of those stories.
Yeah. I would love to
Yeah.
see some of those stories.
Yeah. And throw a spear or something.
Absolutely. Well, and it's funny because I think stillness would be one of your superpowers. So you'd have the spear, you
Yes.
would just
Yes.
stand there for a minute, and then all of a sudden,
And like riding a tiger. Well, maybe not a tiger. it has to be native to the country, but like riding like a lioness or something like that.
Yeah. Woohoo. Ooh, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Um, all right. What do you know will stay true about you, really, no matter what happens?
Mm, I'm going to keep an open heart. I think that's been a through line in every stage of life as I just enter every new situation with an openness of like, I know what I know and I can't wait to know more.
Mm,
And I'm really good at staying curious. And I'm always going to be the one that asks a billion questions in those new situations where I don't know anything or know anyone.
love it.
Um, and it might annoy you, but I'm here to learn. I think I will always remain a student.
All right. So I'm going to say what makes you, and I'm going to say the word, and you can say whatever you want to say.
Okay.
What makes you hungry?
Dates.
Mm, you like dates?
I love dates. I eat them all the time. It's like
Wow.
first thing in the morning I wake up and I just want the candy, Earth's candy.
What makes you sad?
Mm, the cold. Cold temperatures like make me like really upset inside.
Oh no. So what do you we're heading into winter. I feel for you. What so
I like keep my heat pumping and I like wear sweaters all the time, but like the experience of being cold makes me so annoyed and upset and like downtrodden. I don't know
wow.
where the connection is between like emotions and temperature. But then like it will start to warm up and like my mood lifts and I'm a really lovely person again.
That's so interesting. So if you were to say bundle up, like really
Hmm.
with perfect warm,
Yeah.
engineered clothing and you were perfectly warm and you went out
Hmm.
in like beautiful, snowy, cold, 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 cold weather, like would you enjoy
Yeah.
that?
I would, so long as I was properly bundled up and I like make sure I properly bundle up before going outside because being cold is such a frustrating emotion for me.
What inspires you?
Children, children inspire me like crazy. One of my pandemic jobs was tutoring 8-year-old twins
Mm,
because there was no other work and I really do like working with kids. And so I came to their house every single day for a year and I logged them onto Zoom and I taught them third grade math and science and all of the things. Yeah, children inspire the crap out of me because I'm getting to witness like the human soul before it's been like crushed and mangled by the world.
mm,
And so it sort of reminds me what we all can be and what we all get to be, which I love. I love how they speak their mind with such ferocity and there's no agenda behind it. They will just say what they say, and you could get offended. It could be funny. It doesn't matter, but they didn't intend it for it to be that way. There was no malice behind it. There was nothing behind it. It was just simply the truth spewing out of them. And that gets me so excited. And I want to learn from them. Kids
mm.
inspire me.
Yeah, no, totally. Hey, you worked with a beautiful young lady on Dear Edward, right?
Yes, yes, Chloe. I think that was like her first like series regular
Wow.
with me and I was so nervous. But anytime I am in a scene with a child, immediately I am unafraid. It's so wonderful because I'm like, oh, I'm working with a kid. You're going to do something or say something that was completely unscripted. And that's going to put me at ease. And that's going to like remind me that
Mm,
like it's not that deep and we're just playing and it's
yeah.
fun and so silly. And I remember my first like TV job ever, like never been in front of a camera, didn't even know how a set worked, like didn't understand any of the terminology. I got paired with a child and I remember like thanking my lucky stars, like, yep, we're gonna be okay because we're with a kid and we're calm now. So they really put me at ease
Mm,
actually.
yeah, that's amazing. So what frustrates you?
People talking for the sake of being heard.
Mm,
I I've just become increasingly frustrated over the past couple of years as there have been like a lot of like charged topics to discuss. And a lot of that discussion happens on the internet, and everyone suddenly is a political science expert, and everybody's suddenly a doctor, and everybody's suddenly an expert in a field that no, they're not. And so I think people talking when they don't have anything valuable to add, they just want to be heard, like grinds my gears.
What makes you laugh?
I love a good roast. I love when comedians like speak the truth in like kind of a harsh way, but it's so true and so funny, and it just like tickles you and teaches you at the same time.
What makes you angry?
War, suffering of any kind. Yeah. Watching those that are weaker get preyed upon in any sort of capacity.
And finally, what makes you grateful?
This life I get to lead. I don't even know where I get to begin, but it's like I have the most amazing life, and I'm surrounded by so many blessings, and I have the most incredible husband, and we have such a wonderful relationship, and we're literally best friends, which I know is rare and sought after for so many folks. So love makes me really grateful.
Absolutely. What are the top 3 things that have happened so far today?
I took my dog out for a really lovely sunny walk, and it was cold, but it was sunny, and I bundled up sufficiently, and I love the sun. Like if I could eat the sun, I would. Oh, I'm gonna dog sit a friend's dog, and I found out that I was gonna do that earlier, and so I'm excited about that. So we're gonna have another puppy come over today, and we're gonna have a house full of dogs, and it's gonna be great. And I played a little piano this morning, and that was really nourishing to myself. Anytime I get to like give art to myself, it feels really good.
I love that. And what are you looking forward to long term?
I'm looking forward to hopefully becoming a mother one day. That's something that I really, really desire. That whole journey and what those lessons are. Throwing a spear while riding a lion, that's self-explanatory, of course.
Of course.
Yeah, I think those are the two big ones for myself.
I love it. I love it. Anna, I so appreciate you taking the time to chat today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is so lovely and easy.
Ditto. You have such a beautiful energy. Thank you for shining some sun on me over here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, always. You're so welcome.
I've been speaking today with Anna Uzele. I'm Lisa Hopkins. Thanks so much for listening. Everyone stay safe and healthy and warm. And remember to live in the moment. In music, stop time is that beautiful moment where the band is suspended in rhythmic unison, supporting the soloist to express their individuality. In the moment, I encourage you to take that time and create your own rhythm. Until next time, I'm Lisa Hopkins. Thanks for listening.